Have you ever felt like the world was falling apart? Those of you might recognize this meme, right? This is exactly what happened to me during my doctoral dissertation period. Now, before I go too much into my experience in the doctoral program, I wanted to share a plate metaphor that really resonated with me when a speaker shared at a previous conference. So this speaker explained that we all have a platter. Some of us have a small platter, some of us have a large platter. But within our platter, we have plates. Some of us have a platter made out of aluminum that can hold very little. Some of us have a platter made out of steel that can hold a lot. I wanted to share that because sometimes our platters become full during our lives. And this is what happens. Something breaks. Something happens that makes it to where we cannot hold our platter anymore. So when I started my doctoral program at the University of Houston Clear Lake, I had a fairly balanced platter. My platter consisted of a full-time job. I was an assistant principal for an elementary school, and I supervised about 30 staff members and about 500 students. And it was easy. I would go to class in the evening, and I would spend time with my family and friends in the evenings or on the weekends, during breaks. Life was easy, or so I thought. And when I started my research, I would just do things in the evening. I would work on my dissertation. So we all know that there's an expectation of what a program looks like and then what it kind of began, right? So when I started my program, I thought, this is just a set of plates that I have to manage. God gave me plates to add on to my platter. In March 2020, my plates kind of shook a little bit. If you remember, March 2020 was when COVID-19 hit, and being an assistant principal at an elementary school, we know that school education was halted at that time, and we had to go into a virtual learning. At that point, I was added a few more plates to my platter. So I became the instructional technology lead for my campus, which meant that I had to manage not only my teachers, but I also needed to become the contact for my parents. I had a lot of parents who were struggling with their children at home. So they had forgotten how much teachers actually do in the classroom that doesn't involve teaching. We had a lot of behavior management. I was also helping teachers create virtual lessons because, as you might remember, March came around, and after spring break, my teachers did not return to their campuses. So it was helping them try to transition into this virtual learning that added an extra layer or an extra plate onto my platter. Fast forward a little bit, I was promoted. They thought I did a good job in elementary, and they put me into the secondary school. At a secondary school, I became the second floor principal for a large campus. I managed 40 staff members, and then I went on to supervise 600 students. I started to feel my platter get heavy. It was challenging. I started losing sleep because now not only was I having to worry about my students and my parents, I also became a graduate research assistant at the University of Houston Clear Lake. That added on plates because not only was I responsible for my dissertation, but I was put in charge of the international students, as well as those students in their 5th or 6th year program, because we wanted to help them. As mentioned in the previous presentations, it is hard for students to finish their doctoral program. One of my jobs was to push people along, helping them with their research or with their dissertation, with their schoolwork. In the midst of that, I had to work on my stuff. That's when it became challenging. And I had to keep repeating to myself, it's fine, I'm fine. As previously mentioned, my plates were getting full. Then in July 2021, I received another promotion. This time I became a campus principal. Now, being a campus principal is a little bit different. I have assistants, but it goes to me. All of the pressure is on my plate. At my new elementary school, I have about 1,000 students. I say about, I have 963 students from the last time I checked, and I have over 100 staff members. At this point in July 2021, when I received the call, I cried. I cried because I was happy, but I cried because I knew I was already stretched so thin. And I cried because I knew that the weight of my plates was getting to the point where I could not handle it anymore. I knew that something was going to break. I had to decide, what will I let go? And as someone who is very prideful and does not like to let go, I knew that it had to be something that would affect me and not anybody else. I couldn't let my family down. I could not let my professors down. I could not let my students or staff down. I could not let down my parents. I decided it was me who would have to break. As a campus principal, the majority of my work is making sure that everything is running smoothly. My students need to feel welcome so that they are engaged in learning. We are actors in our building. Our acting is to feel emotional and excitement about learning while keeping in mind everything that goes behind the scenes. I relate this very much to my dissertation, my doctoral program. Kind of like duck swimming, we see not a lot of what's going on, but we know that there is a lot going on. My staff had no idea. This was the first day of school, and my staff had no idea that I was breaking apart with all of the emotions, with all of the stress that I had because of all of the obstacles, because of all of the extra plates on my weight. To add to my stress, at my yearly checkup, I found out I was pregnant. Because why not add another challenge to my life, right? In this picture, I was pregnant. I didn't know until later. And when a doctor came and told me that I was expecting, I cried. And I'm sure the doctor thought that I was happy, that I wanted another child, because I did. But I didn't think about it that time. Challenges kept coming onto my platter, and I had to keep reminding myself, it's okay. I'm fine. It's going to be fine. And that's how to get through it. On the first week of school, we found out that we would go virtual again. And that's when things kind of came crashing down. Because I knew that I was floating, that I was barely above water with my platter. It started teetering. It started going around, and I knew something was going to give. And it did. I broke. I remember calling my mentor, Dr. Michelle Peters, at the College of Education, and I told her, this isn't going to work. And I could hear her pause, and she said, and I said, all of it. It's not going to work. I have to give up something. I have to give up my graduate research assistant position, or I have to give up my dissertation. I have to give up my principalship. I have to give up something that would affect me because I can't take it all. She paused, and she told me, you're gonna be fine. And I kept thinking, that's what I keep telling myself, but it's one of those things when you look into a mirror and you say, it's fine, I'm fine, but you're really trying to convince yourself because you know you're not, but you need to be because everything around you is falling apart. We sat and talked for 2 hours. And in those 2 hours, she helped me come up with a plan. She said, don't take your dissertation or your doctoral program as one large piece. Instead, let's break it apart. You have a lot of challenges. You have a lot of plates on your platter right now. And we need to take off small plates at a time to prevent you from breaking even further. At that point, we came up with timelines. In January, my baby was born. He came 5 weeks early, and the doctor attributed that to stress. The doctor said that I had too much going on in my life, which I knew. But I had to think, what is more important? 3 days after leaving the hospital, I defended my dissertation online, and I felt a weight lifted off of my shoulders. Not because I couldn't handle it anymore, but because I was done. And those of you in the program will understand what we mean when you're just done. You're done with research. You're done with the edits. You're done with your professors telling you something else or some other thing that you need to work on. So my suggestion to you is to take the dissertation in pieces. Take an hour and take all of your literature and put it into a Google Doc. Put small goals that will help you move further along, but instead of thinking of it as one dissertation, think of it as smaller pieces. A chapter 1, a chapter 2, chapters 3, 4, and 5. Something I also did was I would read it to myself and highlight and make sure that I could do it later. But I wanted to remind you that it is all possible and that you're going to be fine because I'm fine.